Welcome to the Sisterhood of Sweat. I am here today with Aimee Tariq. Aimee Tariq is a Wall Street bestseller and was recently featured as a top entrepreneur on Forbes and USA Today. After suffering near-death experiences and having a heart rate that would beat faster than 200 beats per minute, Aimee changed her life and made health her focus. She now empowers professionals to live their best lives by removing toxic triggers and maximizing energy, focus, and productivity. Today, we talked about how Aimee almost dug her own grave, what our tongue tells us about our health, why inflammation is a dirty word, obesity is not your fault, 7 signs of that you need oral attention, how sweet it's not, and a happy ending that will keep you smiling. Aimee's book was so loaded with science, you guys, that I was researching the heck out of it. I was fascinated by it. When you guys will really enjoy this episode. It will really empower you to take charge of your health and to see your mouth, the health in your mouth and your gut in a whole new light. I am so excited to welcome Aimee Tariq back to the Sisterhood of Sweat.
I'm so happy to be here.
Her cat was doing antics before this. It was light, then it was dark, and the cat went up and started fooling with the blind. So we might get some acrobatics. What's your cat's name? Oh, there it is.
Yes.
It's in the window.
Her name is Aria, and she is so spoiled.
I love it. I have 2 animals, 2 dogs, Pumpkin and Snickers.
Oh, those are precious names.
They're so cute. Oh my gosh. They were tag teaming me yesterday when I was cooking up a storm in the kitchen. They have to be around me and follow me everywhere I go. And one likes to get between my legs and the other one stands in front of me.
So then you can't move.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my gosh, you guys tripped me.
So cute.
So it's a fun time, I'll tell you.
Yes.
Oh my gosh. I am really excited today to dive into Aimee's new book. And for those of you that haven't met Aimee before, she was on the podcast before. It was a really top downloaded episode, and she's back with her second book. But I want to kind of reintroduce you guys to her in case you don't know who she is, and dive into the very first chapter in her book where she says they almost dug her a grave. So let's start at the beginning of that.
Wonderful. I love this. So yeah, the book is called Panic, Germs, and the Truth Inside American Mouths. And yes, the first chapter, I start with my story about how I was president of all of these clubs. I was a cheerleader. I had over $1 million in scholarships, how my life looked perfect from the outside looking in. And then one night, unexpectedly, I come home after a long day of school, activities, and work. And my heart rate just starts beating over 200 beats per minute, which for those listening, that's very, very fast because the average heart rate is basically 70 beats per minute. And so it was just extremely fast. And I went to the hospital, and doctors were never really able to figure out what was happening or why it was happening. And many of the ones that I saw just said, well, some people are just sick, and that's that. And so I watched as a lot of the dreams that I had to go away because I wasn't physically able to do so many things. And it was really difficult at that age to see that, if I were to continue down that path, I wouldn't be able to do anything that I dreamed of. And I used to joke, I said, God did this because if he hadn't, I would have taken over the world by now. And so that was my joke when I was going through it. But I couldn't accept being in that limbo of not getting better and also not dying. I was just, and being told, you know, that's just how it's going to be for the rest of my life, basically being like, sort of like a vegetable who can move her body, but can't because the heart rate's beating so fast. And, it was really difficult to hear. And so I worked really, really hard on trying to find solutions. And I de-stressed my life, detoxed my life, got rid of all the toxins, did hormone testing, vitamin testing, and food allergy testing. And once I put everything together, now I'm just as athletic as I was before. So athletic that I've recently just fractured. I got 4 fractures recently, and I've recovered already very quickly. But yeah, I'm to the point where, you know, I was told that I'd never be able to do anything again, and here I am just doing
Crushing
everything
it.
more. Yes.
Oh my gosh, I love that. So, and I did read in the book where you said, you know, it really showed you who people can be when you are disabled, and how, you know, some people are so gracious and so nice, and other people kick you when you're down. Can you speak to that a little bit?
that was that was a tough lesson. Like sometimes it would just really break my heart. But yes, whenever you're in a vulnerable position, as so many people are who have disabilities or chronic illness, there's a lot of people out there who take advantage of it, and who don't really understand what's happening as well, and who might say things like, oh, well, you know, you should just get over it. It's like, well, if I could, I would. And things like that, and just really trying to take advantage in so many different ways. But on the bright side, there really were so many angels who are really right there by my side, and, you know, who just poured love and healing over me. And that's what I really chose to focus on, were the angels. And it's hard at such a young age to really see the two sides of humanity like that. But yeah, I just want to focus on the love and the good people, the helpers.
Right, focus on the good, because then you'll have more of what you're focusing on, I think.
I hope so.
Wow, I really, I mean, today, you guys, I was so fascinated by the science in Aimee's book, I could hardly put it down. So I really want to start diving into this. And so you were diagnosed with celiac disease. Explain to everybody what that is and why that's not a good thing.
I was I was diagnosed with so many things, but celiac was, I feel like, the number one cause behind everything. Um, so it's basically an allergy to gluten, and it makes your body sort of attack itself whenever it has gluten. And yeah, it's tough. And it's actually surprising that, you know, I was able to get so far into my life without, you know, having permanent damage to myself, because it's really serious. And once I stopped eating gluten and taking all of that away, like, it's amazing how much my health has changed. And even now, like, you know, people think, oh, just a little bit won't hurt you. But, you know, I accidentally had a little bit just the other day, and my stomach was a wreck. So it's definitely just a real thing. And it made me so sick. And it just reminded me that it's just not worth it, because I had it on accident, and it was a little bit. It was just like a few bites, and it was enough to completely wreck me. And so that was just such an eye opener, because so many people, you know, they have gluten allergies or gluten sensitivities, and they have no idea why they might have a chronic illness or a mysterious illness. And it might be that simple for so many people.
Yeah. Now, what are some of the symptoms of celiac disease?
There are so many, so many. There's so many. So it could be anything from, like, feeling tired all the time, to having really bad upset stomachs all the time, to having more extreme, like I did, like high heart rate, that kind of stuff. It could be obesity. It could be thyroid conditions. A lot of thyroid conditions are actually gluten sensitivities, which is mind blowing. It could be infertility. It could be hormones. It could be acne could be a symptom. There's so many symptoms. Like it's a huge umbrella that covers so many things that you really don't know until you take gluten out of your life to see if that fixes it.
And I know this, I know this well because I took a hormone course from Institute of Integrative Nutrition, IIN. And it's I like to call it the mother effer gene, but the MTHFR gene. And you tested for that and you had it. And so what does this mean for us if we do have it?
Yeah, so it's interesting because, my doctor's a wonderful doctor. And by the time I had met her, I had basically given up. I'm like, nobody's actually going to test me for things I want to test. I didn't ask her to test for this, and she did it anyways. But I had already knew that I had it before I had the test, just because I aligned with all of the symptoms. And so whenever she told me she tested it and I had it, I was like, oh yeah, well, I know, but I'm glad I have that confirmation. And basically it's a big sensitivity to heavy metals, big sensitivity to pesticides. And then there's a lot of other issues like for women, there's immunity, there's fertility, there's a million other things.
Weight gain, right? Because it makes it harder to lose weight if you have that gene.
Yes, it can do so many things. My big thing was heavy metals, just being like super allergic to heavy metals. So a big reason why I have to do organic. I don't do jewelry except for these are platinum. I have to be so careful with any type of heavy metals because I do react to them. And so even like
I think most people actually do. I mean, it's not a good thing to have that internally in your system.
Yes, it's not. Even for people who don't have that gene, it's not. That's a very good point. And
yeah.
I just have to be so careful about everything. My cooking appliances, I can't do aluminum or anything that isn't, I use cast iron, but I have to be really careful about all of these things.
Yeah, I know. I remember when my mom was cooking with cast iron, and she's very much a health nut. And my dad, when he was alive, he was really a health nut. Pretty much when they hit 40 on up, they started really taking care of their health. And she would cook with the cast iron, and she would tell me, if you're low on iron, cooking with a cast iron skillet is a good way to get your iron.
Yes.
I mean,
I've
that's
heard
scary.
that as well. Isn't that amazing? I've
Yeah.
heard it as well. And, I used to be low on iron and I'm not now. So maybe it's true because I haven't taken any iron supplements.
Yeah. And why I said that's scary, not because that you want your iron, but it's scary because, well, what else are you cooking with that is getting in your system? Are you cooking with all this Teflon and all this stuff, and it's getting in your system? And our systems are fearfully and wonderfully made. Although, Aimee, you really caught my eye in the book when you said we're made of slime. I want to hear all about that.
Yes. I love that. I begin one of the chapters with a Bible verse that talks about how, instead of being made from dust, we're actually made from slime, the real translation, which is so interesting because now whenever we look at science, we see that we humans were actually more microbial than we are human. So microbes are basically slime. They're slime of the earth. And so we really were made from slime because we have so many microbes. There's more microbes on us, in us, around us, that's part of us than there are human genes. And so it's mind-blowing once we really understand that, what is humanity really? And who are we really?
Well, now when somebody acts slimy, you can just be like, well, that figures. No.
Right.
I had to laugh because Well, my dad would be proud, he was always quoting the Bible, and we're fearfully and wonderfully made. And so I'm like, oh, but we were created from dirt. No, we were created from slime. And so, I mean, that really, I'm going to remember that. That made my day today.
I love that.
But it's from the Hebrew term, you said. So it really, in actuality, if you were to look at it, that's what we were created from, which is the microbiome, right? And
Yes,
microbiome in our gut, in our brains, in our mouths. I really love all the science that you have placed in the book. It's so fascinating. Can we dive into the science for a little bit?
absolutely. And I'm just so happy to talk about this. Yes, the microbiome, we know about the gut microbiome now, about how important it is, how antibiotics can change what's happening in our gut microbiome, and how probiotics are so important, and how balancing that is important. And we're only now just really recently talking about the mouth microbiome, and how what a huge deal that is, and how it's just as important as the gut. It's our first stomach, because before the food reaches our stomach, it goes through our mouth, and our saliva and is what breaks everything down and really begins the whole digestion process. And so the mouth is just as important as the gut, and I guess some people could argue potentially even more, because it's connected to all of our nervous system is connected by our mouths, and it's so close to the brain, so it affects everything. And what I found so interesting is that if there's a bacterial imbalance, it can cause anything from diabetes to strokes to high blood pressure to even miscarriages to obesity. And so one of the things I talk about is that for some people, they think, oh, I've tried everything. Why am I overweight? Sometimes there's a bacteria that's hidden in there that, you could test for it if you wanted to. And what it does is it causes you to be overweight. And so there's so many causes of obesity that, a lot of people aren't even aware of. And you could be doing all of the right things and not know why it's happening. You can have your hormones aligned, everything, and not understand why. And it could just be a simple bacterial imbalance. That's how important bacteria is. And that's how important keeping everything in harmony really is.
And I know they've done several studies of people that are overweight or at a reasonable weight, and they could eat the same things, but the difference was how much good microbiome they had in their gut. And I guess their mouths. And that's another thing. My sponsor for the show is Dr. Ohhira's Probiotics. So we're talking their language right now.
Wonderful.
And they were saying, way back when I remember teaching on a cruise, to put those Dr. Ohhira Probiotics Plus, just to put it in your mouth and let it dissolve, because it would kill the bacteria, the bad bacteria in your mouth, which would, of course, keep you from probably getting cavities, I would assume.
Yes, I think so too. I'm going to have to look into that. I love that.
Yeah, and my mentor, Anne-Louise Gittleman of the Fat Flush Plan, would always advocate oil pulling and doing that, swishing oil in your mouth 10 to 20 minutes to get rid of all of the bad bacteria.
Yes, I love that, especially coconut oil, because coconut's actually a prebiotic too, so it really helps with things. And one of the mistakes that so many of us makes, which is why, the book is titled Panic Germs, because especially right now with the whole outbreak, everybody's so scared of germs, and we don't want to kill the good germs along with the bad, because we're made of germs. What we want to do is achieve a balance. And so many people with their mouths are choosing mouthwashes that kill 99.9% of germs. And what they're doing is just killing all of the good with the bad. And that's not what we want to do. Just like we don't take antibiotics every day of our lives just in case, we don't want to be doing that with our mouths. And we want to find things that keep it in balance and doesn't kill the good with the bad.
Right, which is also some backward science that we still have out there with some of the treatments that, is like poison therapy. It kills all the good and all the bad. And we need the good to fight off the bad. So I really have been thinking about that a lot, because if you disinfect too much, I mean, some germs, you need to have a tolerance for germs too. And so and we may be creating the next super bug with all of the spraying and all of the wiping down, because it'll become more resistant then.
Yes. And, it's a big misconception out there that so many people are now only relying on hand sanitizer, because hand sanitizer, they see, oh, it kills 99.9% of germs, but it doesn't kill, even the coronavirus. It doesn't kill, the big germs. The only thing that does that is just washing your hands. And washing your hands won't kill all of the good germs with the bad, whereas hand
Right,
sanitizer kills both. And
right.
so, a lot of things that people do, like Clorox, it has a lot of bleach and, well, I don't know if it has bleach actually, but it has a lot of chemicals. And bleach is a heavy chemical, and so we don't want to overdo it and overload our systems. We just want to try to balance the microbes, but it's scary for a lot of people.
Yeah, I mean, I think too, one thing I really discovered too is, sometimes if we think, oh gosh, I'm not moving, my digestion isn't moving, my bowels aren't moving enough, we might think more is better, but less is more. Like, you might take too many things that make you go, but it strips you of all your good flora in the gut, which then
Yes.
creates an imbalance, which you might see like a yeast infection as an evidence of that, or who knows. But that is another thing to be careful of, is not doing something so much that it strips all of your good bacteria.
Absolutely. It's so important to find a balance. And, it's such a delicate topic because each gut is so different. And, there's so many tests out there that help you decide which probiotics you would need and which ones would be best for your particular gut and how much. And there's just so much out there for each individual unique person, because our microbes are more unique than our fingertips. It's the most unique parts of us. And so every single person is so different whenever it comes to probiotics and how much they need and what they need. And it's a very unique process.
And I just have to say, mothers have the most wisdom, even though they didn't tell you all the science. They said, wash your hands before you eat,
Yes.
brush your teeth before you go to bed, and brush them in the morning. Make sure you brush them enough. Go to sleep. It's bedtime. I mean,
All things.
but
Yes.
it's so based on science. It's crazy. And I really want to get into the whole thing about the teeth. I mean, you know, how like our mouths lead to health,
Yes.
or it could lead to illness. Let's dive into that and talk about, you know, the red tongue, the white tongue, all this stuff that you have in the book. That looked pretty awesome.
Oh, yes. That was so fun. So it's intense how just looking at a tongue, you can tell so much. For example, I used to have a whiter tongue, white, sorry. I used to have a whiter tongue, and that meant that, I had sort of like a yeast imbalance. And,
Like with
and
bumps.
it didn't have any bumps. It was just like always sort of white. And that's very common with people with candida and
Yes, right.
yes, eating too many like carbs or
Too much
sugar.
sugar.
Yes, and all of that. So, yeah, I had that so much, and I would always, ask questions about it and everything. And it wasn't until I started using a probiotic toothpaste that really like got rid of that. And so, it got rid of that. It got rid of gingivitis, and I used to get strep throat all the time. I had my tonsils removed when I was 5. That now we know we shouldn't really do that, but when I was 5, it was just lots of people got their tonsils
Take it
removed.
out.
Yes. And so,
We
and
don't need that body part.
right.
Let's just take it out.
And so I had strep throat all the time, and finally, once my mouth microbiome was balanced, I haven't had strep throat since, or like really any sort of cold. If I get a cold, I might get it for like one day and then it's gone. And I really think that it's that, having a balanced oral microbiome is really what helped me stop getting strep throat, stop getting all of these things, because now my tongue is in good shape. I don't have gingivitis. Everything's working properly. And so my immune system is through the roof. It's doing so much better. And it's amazing how much people think, oh, it's not serious gum disease. It's not affecting my immune system. Or, people might not even realize that gum disease affects your immune system, but gingivitis is considered gum disease. And even a little bit does a big effect on the immune system.
Yeah. And what's amazing is how much from our mouths could lead into our bloodstream, because I had heavy mercury toxicity once upon a time. You know how you were ill? I am, the Energizer Bunny, and I'm teaching aerobics, and I was group coordinating, and I was all over the place, kids and this, and all of a sudden the Energizer Bunny just didn't have any battery, and I was like, what is wrong with me? Like, I thought at first it was because I was competing, it was the diet. 6 months later, I was still feeling, and then so bad. And I remember one day just waking up and just, we had somebody, we were doing some kind of a real estate deal that day. And I remember I was so tired. I was so freaking tired. I couldn't wait for the guy to leave. And it's not like it was strenuous. I had a full night's sleep. It was first thing in the morning. I laid my head down on the table. I was just like, I am so exhausted. And that was when I hit a wall, and I was like, I have to go find out what's wrong with me. And so I went to a holistic doctor who's a functional medicine doctor, and he did the tissue mineral analysis and a blood test. So both, which the blood test, doesn't lie, hair can be off a little bit, showed that I had heavy mercury toxicity. And it would literally, we found out that they placed my fillings, which had mercury, underneath my gums. And so you weren't seeing it on the x-ray, and it was leaching sulfuric mercury into my system, which is the most poisonous substance you can have. Yeah. And I found out all kinds of things about it. Like, I don't even know how you're surviving, let alone existing with all this in your system. Yeah. And an eighth of, I think it was an eighth of a teaspoon. I don't know. It was like a small amount, a minute amount. Don't quote me on that. Could pollute a lake, so why are we putting mercury in our bodies? Why are we still doing that?
To put that in perspective for everybody listening, mercury is so poisonous that we're not allowed to put it in landfills, and the only place governments think that it's safe is in our mouths. It doesn't make sense. So
yeah, and then of course they're all part of this, oh, well, it won't hurt you. We only put in a small amount. So I had it bioidentical dentist, like basically, I don't know if I'm saying that right. That's probably hormones, bioidentical. Yeah. Oh my gosh, what is it called? It's a certain type of dentist. Biological?
Oh, biological.
Okay, yeah, not bioidentical. That's what I take.
So, yeah.
But biological dentist took it out. So she extracted the mercury in a proper manner. I changed out all of my fillings. I felt immediately better and regained not only my health, but I was a force. It was crazy. I started a business. I went to school. I was 50 at the time. I competed and was winning in my 50s, and I led a competition team, and I wrote a book and another book. So what I'm saying is I got my life back when I got rid of the toxicity in my system.
That is amazing. I love that. And yeah, there's so many people who are suffering needlessly, and they think, oh, it's not important, it's just in my mouth. But you're one of the many stories of how it changes everything.
Everything.
Like
Yeah.
what you're able to do afterwards because you regained your health was, basically change the world.
Right.
so
Yep.
and so imagine if you're listening to this and you're struggling and you might have mercury in your mouth, and imagine what you could do even more than what you're already doing now if you
If you
have that
felt
energy
it.
back.
If you had your energy, because energy, if you listen to my last podcast, energy is everything. And you
Yes.
don't want to waste your energy on toxic people
Yes.
or toxicity in your body, which slows you down. So the lesson today is toxicity slows you down in all ways.
Yes, in all ways.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. We are preaching it today, you guys. Oh, so why is you in your book, you say inflammation is a dirty word. Let's dive into inflammation.
Yes. So there's so many things out there about anti-inflammatories and all of those things. And a lot of people are so scared of the word inflammation, but inflammation is actually part of the healing process. So anytime we get sick and we have a little bit of a fever, we have some inflammation, but that's because it's fighting. It's fighting those viruses and that infection within us. And so we don't want to get rid of all inflammation all the time. Whenever I broke my arm and shoulder, of course it was inflamed, but that's because it was healing, it was doing something. And so inflammation to a degree is very important, but we don't want it to overrun everything. We don't want to be too inflamed, but we also can't be scared of it.
So you talk about how chronic inflammation leads to disease. Can we dive into that a little bit?
Absolutely. So there are so many ways systematic chronic inflammation can happen within the body. For some people, it can be food allergies. For some people, it can be a nutrient deficiency that's making their bodies not work right and then get inflamed. For some people, it's really the oral microbiome and what's happening inside their mouths, whether it's cavities, root canals. My cats are fighting. I apologize.
Oh, root canals.
Yes, whether it's having a bacteria imbalance in the mouth, whether it's gingivitis or so many different things. For some people, it might be hormones, it might be stress. Well, with so many people, it's stress because a lot of people are experiencing a lot of mental stress, and they're experiencing a lot of, maybe it's financial stress. So that creates inflammation in the body. But
Because it increases your cortisol.
yes, one that's been hidden for so long that, a lot of people weren't even aware of is the little things in the mouth that really play such a big role in overall inflammation.
Wow. Wow. So if we have chronic inflammation, what are some ways we could decrease the inflammation?
Definitely by getting rid of all toxicity, whether it means in your social life, or freeing up your mental space, or your food, your lifestyle, getting rid of all toxicity, whether it's heavy metals in your mouth. That's the number one thing you can do to make sure you have a good foundation. And then after that, you can do the extras like yoga and breath work, because you can do all the yoga in the world, but if you have a mouth filled with mercury, it can only help you so much. And so and like you say, you can do all the exercise in the world, but that just makes such a big difference, taking out that mercury. So really getting rid of your toxins it's what's going to put you to that next level.
Let's just talk about how much the government just loves us so much that they wouldn't let us put mercury in a lake, but they let us have it in our mouth. And also, fluoride. We need to be having fluoride so much in our water, in our toothpaste, in our mouth. From the dentist when I was growing up, I had to go get fluoride treatments every month.
Yes.
Let's talk about fluoride in our mouth. And the government just wants the best for us.
Yes. Oh, it's a wild thought, and it can be so frustrating once you really dive in and if you read the book, you see how where fluoride comes from and why it's in everything that it's in, and that really opens your mind to how things work. And you know, once you realize that it's like it's not something that's needed to prevent cavities, it'll blow your mind. And so many people, you know, they don't want to see it because it means that, you know, so many things were wrong. And it's just,
Well,
it's
nobody
scary.
likes to admit they're wrong, right?
Yeah,
Because then that might be expensive.
that's true.
Like cause somebody harm, you know, right?
True.
Oh my
And
goodness.
so just reducing fluoride, there's fluoride in soda and food and our water and our toothpaste. And you know, there's warning signs on the toothpaste saying don't eat this. And there's been children who've had to go to hospitals because they've eaten too much fluoride from toothpaste, because children sometimes like to eat toothpaste. And so
And animals.
yes, and animals. And so there's a lot of cases of fluoride toxicity, and it doesn't have to happen. And we don't need fluoride in our toothpaste, our mouthwash, and in so many different things. And it's in so many different things that there's really no way for us to measure how much of it we're getting. And so adding on to that purposefully is just, it's not going to help at this point, because it's hidden in so many things that there's really no way to measure how much we have, how much we're ingesting, that purposely adding on to that is really doing more harm than good.
Well, I think our systems are made to get rid of toxins. It's,
Yeah.
you know, but we have to try to eliminate how much we're taking in by being diligent about it, because if you're in this world, you're going to get some toxins. You're probably going to breathe some in, you're going to ingest some. So I guess the name of the game is to ingest less. And like you said, with your toothpaste, when I was reading in the book all the different toothpaste and all the crap that was in our toothpaste, it was alarming. I was just like, oh my gosh. And I just thought I was brushing my teeth and, you know, but we have to also think about what is in our toothpaste. How can we find like a good prebiotic toothpaste that we could use?
Yes. So there's some probiotic and prebiotic toothpaste out on the market. I really like prebiotic ones, and it's just important that it has no fluoride, no unnecessary chemicals, no unnecessary ingredients, and that it's just as simple as possible. I personally use Revitin, but it's expensive. But you can also make your own, and you can also buy cheaper ones. That's the one I currently use, and it's a wonderful mix of probiotic and prebiotic, and it just keeps my mouth healthy and clean, and so I love it.
What I found to be exceptionally crazy too, and I love the science in the book. I'm a science geek addict. I love everything based on science, but I'm reading some of the facts from the past, and one that really caught my eye is we used to use powdered mouse brains as toothpaste.
Yes.
Wow. And burnt bread powder. And then somebody named Peabody thought soap should be added to toothpaste. So you really were washing your mouth out with soap.
Yes, there's a reason why like toothpaste gets foamy. It's because there's people who created detergent and laundry detergents and who made people think this is what clean feels like, foamy and like bubbly. That's what.
Yeah, and I still think that way. If my shampoo doesn't foam, I don't like it.
Yes, and so really it's not necessary. I don't have a foamy shampoo or foamy anything, and so yeah, it's just amazing how we were conditioned to believe that that was necessary, and it just came from, you know, the people who created laundry detergent thought, well, you know what? Let's put that in toothpaste. Let's make toothpaste foamy and
Oh, but you guys, you just got to get the book to get all this because it's so good. And how sweet it's not. What a great title for a chapter. how sweet it's not. I want you guys to really get that in and think about that and digest that for a minute. And what we're talking about is artificial sweeteners. Can you tell us about that? Why it's not sweet?
So there's a lot of people who believe, oh, if I get an artificial sweetener, it's not real sugar, so it's better, and it's not the same calories sometimes, like Coke Zero, 0 calories. So they think, oh, that's better. But it's not necessarily better because it tricks the mind, it tricks the body into thinking it's something else. And a lot of people actually, I don't think this is in the book, but a lot of people who have artificial sweeteners, they actually have they become addicted, so they have a lot more of it because it tricks the mind into thinking that it's not satisfied, it's not full, so then they just keep having it. But I don't think that's in the book. But
Yeah, but it's in my book.
oh yes, there you go. That's
Oh
what
my
I was
God, I just knocked my
referencing.
headphones out. We
There
are
you
having a good time today.
There you go. Yeah, I didn't write that in any of my books, but your book is the one I was referencing.
But it's true. We did like a stevia challenge and we took picture. I'm not stevia challenge. What am I saying? I won't name the sugar. I won't name it. It's not stevia. It's something else that's very artificial. We did a challenge. We'll call it sucralose. And we eliminated all of that from people's diets that were having it. And their bellies, the difference in their bellies was crazy.
Wow.
Just to see it shrink from not having artificial sweetener.
That is just amazing to hear. So many people think that it's the right thing, that it's healthier, but really it's not, which is
Well, I've also read it could enlarge your thymus, kidney, liver, just like
all of that. It messes with hormones, it messes with everything. Yes.
yeah. One time I was carrying a protein powder back in the day that must have had a ton in there. This was before I went to, the Institute of Integrative Nutrition, before I really knew all the, science. And a lady brought me a booklet about that thick on artificial sweetener and why you don't want to have it. So I got my lesson right there.
That is so amazing.
So I love it. I love it when you can learn, and you guys can all learn and evolve, and information is power. The Bible also says we perish for the lack of knowledge. So knowledge is power, and knowledge is everything, because if you know better, you do better.
Yes. I love that verse. I don't remember hearing that verse before, but it's so true that we do perish without knowledge.
Yeah.
But,
it's so key.
Before we even knew about germs and knew that it existed, there were so many people who died because, people didn't know to wash their hands. And so doctors would come from, dealing with bodies in the morgue and dealing with dead bodies, and then come to deliver babies, and those mothers would die. And it took them so long to figure out, oh, I should wash my hands after dealing with a dead body before coming to bring new life out. So this is before we even knew about germs. And that knowledge itself, just something as simple as washing hands, it's a lifesaver.
Yeah, and it's crazy how we think, oh, that won't matter. Oh, that's no big deal. I think everything matters, and your intention, to take care of yourself matters, and it can make a big difference. It can be life-changing. What are the 7 signs that we need oral attention?
Oh, you know what? I don't remember all of them one after the other.
Just name a few. It's good.
I will name a few.
It's not a test.
I've been tested on my own book.
It's okay. Yeah, I get it, because sometimes you're in the middle of the research phase and you're writing your book.
Yes.
And you may not always remember every single thing that you wrote. You'll be like, I said that? Wow. Yeah.
I love it. So definitely the first one is just making sure how your tongue looks. Obviously, if it's black and hairy, that is not good. So you have a very extreme.
Not to mention, nobody's going to want to kiss you.
Right? Can you imagine?
Oh my God. We're all going to be looking at people's tongues now. We're going to be like, oh. Oh.
So then that's one of the most obvious ones, but then other obvious ones could be just discoloring, it being white, it being cracked, it having little sores. So, you know.
I'm sorry, I just had a vision of sticking my tongue out at the doctors, and they really know whether you have anything in your mouth.
That's such a good point.
Oh my gosh, and they should really be looking for that, right?
Yes, they should be. And I think more and more are because, just research. First, you need to know what a healthy tongue looks like. So you need to see some images of that and then compare your tongue to that and see if it's healthy. And then that's just like one of the simple, easiest signs I can tell you, hey, I might need some attention. The other thing is bleeding after brushing your teeth or after flossing. You don't want to be bleeding. Ideally you wouldn't be bleeding, but even a lot of people think that it's just really normal to just bleed. And I'd like to say, if every time you brushed your hair and your scalp bleed, would you think that was normal? So the same thing with your mouth. You don't want to bleed a lot whenever you're brushing your teeth or flossing. That's a sign that there might be some bad inflammation going on, a little bit of gingivitis, which is gum disease, which can progress to something more serious. And those are some of the most obvious signs. And then the other one would be like making sure that your breath isn't really awful.
Halitosis, yes. Because that means you're probably not, first of all, you're not brushing your tongue. You're probably not flossing really good in between your teeth, or there's some kind of bacteria going on in there that is not good.
A lot of people think, oh, why do I have bad breath no matter what? It could be, it could be anything from
Your diet.
I was going to say that.
Yeah.
We're reading each other's minds. If you're not eating the right food, like it automatically shows up in your mouth, and it's just not going to smell right. I eat a lot of garlic. I eat a lot of onions, but my breath never stinks. Why is that? Because
it's a cleanser.
Yes, it's a cleanser. It really is.
Yeah.
And it's balanced in my mouth. So if a lot of people think, oh, bacteria or onions is going to make your breath smell bad, it's like not necessarily. Well, also they're natural antibiotics too, so it's very good for you, and they
purify the blood.
Yes, all of this and more.
Yeah, because it's fascinating. Yes. What our food is medicine, truly.
It is. And so staying away from that, I think, isn't the answer, but also if it's making you stink, there's a deeper reason behind that.
And I just have to think back to being on the elevator at a fitness show.
Yes.
And how bad it smelled.
Yeah.
Because people were just eating meat. And of course not showering because they didn't want to wash off their show spray tan. But it really smelled to me like protein, I have to say.
Spoiled protein.
Yeah, like putrefied. Like, because that's what they say if you've been on a plan like that in fashion. They would, say Atkins could, if you ate way too much meat, you could stink because of it. So you should pay attention. These are signs, not wonders. If you're stinking, there's a reason. You're not drinking enough water. Could be number one, you're eating too much meat. Could be number two, you've got too much bacteria in your mouth. For three, I mean, there's so many things that you really should pay attention to the signs, though.
And I'm so glad that you say that, because I don't think I've said this on a podcast yet, and I don't tell anybody this because once you tell them, they think, oh, you're gross. But whenever you're at the point where you know your body, like for example, I don't have to wear deodorant. I live in Orlando in Florida,
Right.
where it's absolutely like so hot. I don't have to wear deodorant. Why is that? Because my microbiome on my skin and around me and, you know, inside of me is balanced. I'm not eating foods that, you know, make me stink. Like if I were to get strep throat again, I'm sure I would smell, because it's an infection, it's an illness, and your body's getting rid of that. But on my day to day, I don't stink. And I think so many people don't even realize that that's possible.
It is so possible. And I am with you on that, with not needing, rarely would I
Yes.
need deodorant. Only when I'm not drinking enough water, number one, and eating correctly, number two,
Yeah.
would I
And
need that. If you're drinking enough water in your system and you are eating clean and fresh, it's a testament
yeah.
to you. It's a testament. I
And I
don't know about whether your poo should stink or not, but we're getting gross today.
that's a whole other book, right?
That's another book. I mean, there are doctors that will talk about that in length, what it should look like, what, you know, the whole bit. And that's another podcast. We'll come back and do that. But today I want to leave you with a happy ending that will keep you smiling, which is a chapter in Aimee's book. And that really made me smile. What is a happy ending that will keep us smiling today, Aimee?
It's just remembering that, you know, we don't need all of those chemicals in our system, in our foods, and in our toothpaste, and remembering that, you know, there's hope for the future and for our health, and just keeping it as simple as possible. So making sure that what we put in our mouth is healthy for us, that it's not heavy metals like mercury, that that it matches what our body needs, and just staying focused on the simple things is what's going to keep us healthy and keep us happy, and remembering to brush and remembering to floss, and not using heavy mouthwashes, and instead replacing that with coconut pools. All of those things is really what's going to keep us super healthy.
Well, you guys go out and order her book and keep her number one. Keep her number one on Amazon. What is the name? Say it again of your book so everybody can go out and get it.
Oh, and I have other news too. I recently just found out it's also a Wall Street Journal bestseller.
Woo! All right, you heard it here. That's great. It is that good, you guys. It is that good. You blew me away, and I can't wait to read more. Seriously, the connection she made with some of the science and the things was really astonishing and astounding to me, and one so young, that you really drew those lines together and really saw things that I think people way older than you don't even recognize.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything. And yes, the title is Panic, Germs, and the Truth Inside American Mouths.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Aimee. And thanks everybody for listening to this episode of Sisterhood of Sweat. Bye, everybody. Oh my gosh.